Spider-Man Homecoming. So Spider-Man Homecoming is the third iteration of Spider-Man for the big screen. Tobey Maguire was Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield was Spider-Man, now Tom Holland is Spider-Man. All have done a fine job as Spider-Man, but now Spider-Man is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He helped out in that whole skirmish at the airport, you know, back in Captain America Civil War. And now he's like, now what? As he's waiting for Tony Stark's phone call to tell him, hey, you're an Avenger, we need your help. The phone call is just not coming, but he wants to prove himself as a hero. All the while trying to make it through high school, because that's Spider-Man. And now he has a bit of a challenge in the form of the villain, the Vulture, played by Michael Keaton, so now here we are. New Spider-Man movie. What I love about the Spider-Man movie is this is a Spider-Man origin story without it being a Spider-Man origin story that you've seen before. It's like at this point we get it. Uncle Ben, he dies. Peter Parker feels responsible. Great power comes great responsibility and all that. You don't get that in here. These events, you know they happened, but no, you don't need to see him get bit by the radioactive spider. You don't need to see Uncle Ben die. Point is, he's Spider-Man now. The origin story comes from the fact that until now, he's been getting cats out of trees and doing small scale stuff. Now with this big flying Vulture dude, he's like, I have to take that guy down. Am I even qualified for that? Oh shit, it's like it's a coming of age story. And Tom Holland was great as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He really embodied what I loved about Spider-Man. The cool thing about Spider-Man is Spider-Man is a kid. He should be called Spider-Boy, but with a mask, no one knows to call him that, so he's clearly a man, right? And that endearing high school quality about him is why people love Spider-Man. You didn't have to eat your green vegetables. You don't have to be Captain America. Damn it, that's why I love Spider-Man in high school. And tonally speaking, this movie felt like the Spider-Man stories I loved when I was younger. Peter Parker's in high school. He's trying to balance his academics and romance with, yeah, that whole superhero thing. And I love Tom Holland in this role. We got a taste of him in Civil War, now you get the full meal. I also loved how sparingly Tony Stark was in this movie. Some people were afraid it was going to be Iron Man 4, it's not. No, Tony Stark is a mentor role for Peter Parker, but really he's not on screen much. Peter talks about how he wants to impress Tony Stark in certain scenes, so in that, Tony Stark is in Peter Parker's mind more than he's in your mind. They used him a lot in marketing. People were like, it's Amazing Spider-Man 2, yeah, people are kind of sick of Spider-Man by now, maybe. But hey, here's Tony Stark, Iron Man. People love him. Watch the movie, please. So marketing-wise, it makes sense, but Iron Man did not overstay his welcome in this movie. And Michael Keaton as the Vulture, man. Holy smokes. Yeah, this is a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, and I'm about to gush about a villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is not common. It's actually kind of rare. I mean, he's clearly the best Spider-Man villain since Alfred Molina as Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2. And in terms of Marvel Cinematic Universe villains, he's one of the more memorable ones. Not only do they start the movie out and you completely understand where this dude's coming from. You understand, you're like, this guy was just a working class dude and then he got hosed over and he's like, all right, well, crime, I guess. I like villains like that. You just feel like a lot of people could have slipped down the path that he went if what happened to him happened to them. But Michael Keaton has an intensity about him. And when it's Michael Keaton, that's when he shines. When he's in the big mechanical Vulture suit, yeah, he's a big bad villain. But when he's out of it and he's Michael Keaton, dude, I don't think he ever raises his voice in the movie. He's just intense. I mean, 90% of this movie is about Peter Parker and Spider-Man, yeah. I'm just saying the parts that deal with the Vulture were great. And if you're looking for some great action, this movie has some great action scenes. But Spider-Man has some great rescues that he does in the movie that you want to see in a Spider-Man movie. You're like, dude, web slinging, let's do it. They have a lot of comedy in here. Also, there's a lot of laughs. And that comes from a Spider-Man vibe. Spider-Man should be fun. It should be funny. Without being a flat-out comedy, it should definitely have comedy in it. And the comedy comes from just the situational circumstance and the remarks people make. These are the remarks you're thinking as a viewer, and so when they address it, you're like, oh, beautiful, perfect. Like we're a team. There's a great movie reference in this movie, and you think of the movie reference, and then the movie addresses the fact that, yes, that was a movie reference. And if you're a Spider-Man nut, you'll notice some characters and some names. You're like, oh, that's a person, Spider-Man. I always like Easter eggs like that. But guys, Spider-Man Homecoming was what I was hoping Spider-Man Homecoming would be. A great Spider-Man movie, a great coming-of-age movie. I wanted Tom Holland to be great as Spider-Man. He was. I wanted Michael Keaton to be great as the Joker. Fuck. I wanted Michael Keaton to be great as the Vulture. He was. And they did with Michael Keaton and the Vulture what Raimi did with Alfred Molina and Doc Ock, which was take a villain I thought was pretty stupid and make him a pretty awesome villain on screen. It really showcased and reminded me why I loved Spider-Man when I was younger, and it brought the fun back to the Spider-Man world. A couple of great moments of heart, too. There is a part in particular that just really shows the quality of Peter Parker's character. I just loved it. Talk about doing a character justice. In a world where nothing Spider-Man will blow my mind more than the first time I saw the first Raimi Spider-Man movie, because it was just such a long wait for that movie, and when I finally saw it, I was like, oh, thank God. Spider-Man Homecoming is a perfect Spider-Man experience for my fellow Spidey webheads. And I will say Spider-Man Homecoming is awesome-tacular. I'm just making it rain awesome-taculars in here now. All right, guys, so Spider-Man Homecoming, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Or are you going to see Spider-Man Homecoming, and what are you hoping to see? Whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more. Wait, I should be like...